There is a book that has been following you. Not in the way a shadow follows a body, not in the way a song gets stuck in your head. This is something stranger. This is something more deliberate. You may have already encountered it. You may have picked it up in a bookstore years ago and put it back on the shelf. You may have seen it referenced in a conversation that seemed to come from nowhere. Someone may have mentioned it in passing, and the title landed in your chest like a stone dropped into still water. Or maybe you have never heard of it at all, and yet something in you, right now, in this exact moment, recognizes that what I am about to describe is meant for you. Not because I am special, not because this channel holds some secret key, but because there is a pattern to how awakening works. And one of its most reliable signatures is this. The teaching arrives when the student is ready to receive it, and not 1 second before. The book I am referring to is not one single title. Let me be clear about that from the start. This is not a promotion. This is not a recommendation list. What I am pointing to is a phenomenon, one that mystics have described for centuries, and that quantum physics is only now beginning to frame in language the modern mind can accept. There are certain texts, certain transmissions of knowledge, that do not operate the way normal books operate. Normal books deliver information. You read them, you absorb facts, you move on. But these books, the ones I am talking about, they do not simply deliver information. They rearrange something. They shift the architecture of your inner world. And the strange part, the part that will either unsettle you or confirm what you have always quietly suspected, is that they seem to find you at precisely the moment your old architecture is ready to fall. Think about the last time your life broke open. Not a small disruption. I mean the kind of rupture where everything you thought you knew about yourself, about what was possible, about what was real, suddenly became insufficient. Maybe it was a loss. Maybe it was a realization that crept in slowly and then hit all at once. Maybe it was the simple, devastating recognition that you had been living someone else's life, following someone else's script, breathing someone else's air. In that space, in that raw and trembling openness, something appeared. A book, a teaching, a phrase that landed differently than it would have landed 6 months earlier. And you knew in a way that bypassed logic entirely that this was not coincidence. What I want to explore with you today is why that happens. Not metaphorically, not poetically, although we will move through poetry. I want to look at the actual mechanism, the deep structure of consciousness and reality that makes it possible for a book, a collection of words on a page, to arrive in your life with the precision of a key cut for a lock that did not exist until the moment you needed to open the door. To understand this, we need to start somewhere that might seem unrelated. We need to start with the quantum eraser experiment. This is one of the most disturbing experiments in the history of physics, and I use the word disturbing deliberately, because what it reveals about the nature of reality is something the rational mind does not want to accept. Here is what happens. In the classic double-slit experiment, you fire particles, photons or electrons, at a barrier with 2 slits. When no one is watching, when no measurement device is recording which slit the particle passes through, the particles create an interference pattern on the detector screen. They behave as waves. They pass through both slits simultaneously and interfere with themselves. The moment you place a detector at one of the slits to observe which path the particle takes, the interference pattern disappears. The particles behave as discrete objects. They pick one slit. The act of observation collapses the wave function. Now the quantum eraser takes this further. And this is where it gets genuinely strange. In this version, the witch path information is recorded, so the interference pattern disappears, just as expected. But then, after the particles have already hit the detector screen, after the results are already recorded, the experimenters erase the witch path information. And when they do, the interference pattern reappears, not prospectively, retroactively. The particles behave as though they were never observed, even though the observation already happened. The erasure of knowledge in the present changes the behavior of particles in the past. Sit with that for a moment. The implications are staggering. What this suggests is that reality is not a fixed sequence of events moving from cause to effect in a straight line. Reality is participatory. It responds not just to what happens, but to what is known, and even to what is later unknown. The universe, at its most fundamental level, seems to be in a constant conversation with consciousness. Not as a metaphor, as a measurable, repeatable, laboratory-confirmed phenomenon. Now bring this back to the book that found you. If reality at the quantum level is responsive to observation, to knowing, to the state of the consciousness that interacts with it, then the idea that a specific teaching could arrive at a specific moment in your life is not magical thinking. It is consistent with the deepest physics we have. The book did not fall off a shelf by accident. The recommendation did not come from nowhere. The title did not catch your eye randomly. Something in the field of your consciousness, in the state of your knowing and unknowing, created the conditions for that encounter. You were ready, and readiness, it turns out, is not passive. Readiness is a force. It shapes what shows up. But let me be more precise about what readiness means here, because this is where most people get it wrong. Readiness is not enthusiasm. Readiness is not curiosity. Readiness is not even desire. Readiness, in the sense I am describing, is structural. It is what happens when an old framework of understanding has been stressed to its breaking point and has not yet been replaced by a new one. It is the moment between the collapse of one way of seeing and the emergence of another. In developmental psychology, this is sometimes called a liminal state. In the contemplative traditions, it is called the dark night. In the language of complex systems, it is called the edge of chaos, the narrow band between rigid order and total dissolution, where a system is maximally sensitive to new information and maximally capable of reorganization. This is the state your soul enters before a breakthrough. And I use the word soul deliberately, not because I am asking you to adopt a particular metaphysics, but because there is no better word for the totality of what you are. The part of you that is not reducible to your thoughts, your emotions, your biography, your habits. The part that watches all of those things and knows, with a knowing that precedes language, when something fundamental is shifting. When you are in this state, you become what physicists would call a highly coherent system. Your attention narrows. Your tolerance for noise drops. You stop being able to distract yourself with the things that used to work. The entertainment that used to fill your evenings feels hollow. The conversations that used to satisfy you feel like they are circling the wrong questions. You become, almost against your will, a tuning fork vibrating at a frequency that will only resonate with very specific input. And that input, when it arrives, is the book, the teaching, the transmission that matches your frequency so precisely that it feels less like learning and more like remembering. If this is resonating with you, If you can feel that tuning fork vibrating as you listen, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so we can keep exploring these depths together. The Sufi tradition has a phrase for this. They say that the secret protects itself, meaning that certain knowledge is not hidden by anyone. It is not locked away by gatekeepers or concealed by elites. It is hidden by its own nature. It can only be perceived by a consciousness that has reached the specific state required to perceive it. You could read the same book at 22 and at 42 and have two completely different experiences, not because the words changed, but because you changed. The words were always there. The meaning was always encoded in them. But meaning is not a property of text. Meaning is a property of the relationship between text and consciousness. And that relationship is not static. It evolves, it deepens, it breaks open. This is why you can pick up a book you read years ago and feel like you are reading it for the first time. The words are identical. The pages are the same. But the consciousness meeting those pages is different. And because consciousness is not a passive receiver, but an active participant in the creation of reality, the book itself is, in a very real sense, different. Not metaphorically different, ontologically different. The reality of the book, the meaning it generates, the transformation it catalyzes, is a function of the consciousness that encounters it. This is the observer effect applied not to photons but to wisdom. And it is not a stretch. It is the same principle operating at a different scale. Let me tell you about a moment. Not my moment specifically, but a moment that is so universal it might as well be yours. There is a night, and it usually is night, when you find yourself unable to sleep. Not because of caffeine or anxiety or noise, because something is working its way to the surface. You can feel it in your chest, a pressure that is not quite pain and not quite emotion, something more like a tectonic shift happening so slowly that the only evidence is a faint vibration you cannot name. You have been carrying something for a long time, a belief about who you are, a story about what is possible, a framework that once served you beautifully but has become a cage so familiar you forgot it had bars. And on this night, in the dark, with no distractions left, you feel the first bar bend. This is the moment the book appears. Not always literally on that night, but in the days that follow, in the strange synchronistic window that opens when a structure inside you begins to give way. You walk into a store and your hand reaches for a spine you have never noticed. A friend sends a text with a title and says, "I do not know why, but I think you need to read this." You are scrolling through something unrelated and a passage appears, and the words hit you with a force that is entirely disproportionate to their simplicity. You read a sentence and your eyes fill with tears, and you do not know why. That is not sentimentality. That is recognition. That is the sound a lock makes when the right key finally turns. I want to pause here and ask you something. What was the book that found you at exactly the right moment? What was falling apart in your life when it appeared? If you have been doing everything right, and reality still has not shifted, this is the one thing nobody has told you. There is something underneath all of it, quietly running the show. I am hosting a free live transmission where I walk you through exactly what that is and how to finally shift it at the root. The link to register is in the description below. Save your seat. The moment you see this, you will understand why you could not see it before. Tell me in the comments, because I have a feeling your story might be the exact thing someone else in this space needs to hear right now. David Bohm, the physicist who spent decades exploring the relationship between quantum mechanics and consciousness, proposed something he called the implicate order. His idea was that what we perceive as reality, the world of separate objects and sequential events, is actually the unfolded surface of a much deeper, enfolded reality where everything is interconnected. In the implicate order, the book and the reader are not separate. The teaching and the readiness are not separate. They are two expressions of a single underlying movement, like a wave and the ocean it rises from. The wave looks like its own thing. It has a shape, a direction, a moment of cresting, but it was never separate from the water. It was always the ocean moving. When Bohm described this, he was not being mystical. He was being rigorous. He was trying to account for the non-locality that quantum mechanics reveals. The fact that particles separated by vast distances can be instantaneously correlated, as if space itself is not the fundamental medium, but a projection of something deeper. Bell's theorem, confirmed experimentally by Alain Aspect in 1982 and refined in dozens of experiments since, proved that no theory based on local hidden variables can reproduce the predictions of quantum mechanics. The correlations are real. The connectedness is real. And if it is real at the level of particles, the question becomes, why would it stop there? It does not stop there. The book that finds you is an expression of the same non-local connectedness. Your consciousness and the consciousness encoded in that text are correlated in the implicate order. They are entangled, not in the loose pop science sense, but in the precise sense that their states are linked in a way that transcends the apparent separation of space and time. You did not find the book. The book did not find you. You and the book emerged together from the same deeper movement, the way two waves can arise from the same underwater current and meet at the surface as if by design. Now I want to go deeper into something that most discussions of this kind skip over, because it is uncomfortable. The book only appears when your soul is ready to break through, yes. But what does breaking through actually feel like? Not in the inspirational poster version, in the real, lived 3 a.m. version. Breaking through feels like dying, not physically, but the self that you have been, the identity you have constructed, the story you have told about who you are and what the world is. That self experiences the breakthrough as annihilation. And it resists. It resists with everything it has. This is why the book often appears during your worst moments, not your best. It appears when you are lost, when you are grieving, when you are so confused that your usual strategies for making sense of things have completely failed. It appears when the ego's operating system has crashed and has not yet rebooted. There is a reason for this, and it is not cruelty. It is architecture. The ego, the constructed self, operates like a filter. It takes the infinite complexity of reality and reduces it to a manageable stream of information. This is useful. Without it, you could not function. You could not hold a job, or have a conversation, or cross a street. But the filter is not neutral. It does not just simplify reality. It edits reality. It removes anything that does not fit its existing model. And the things it removes most aggressively are precisely the things that would transform you, the insights that would dissolve your limitations, the perspectives that would reveal your suffering as optional, the truths that would set you free but would also require the death of the self that is doing the filtering. So the book cannot get through when the filter is fully operational. The teaching cannot land when the ego is running smoothly. The transmission is always broadcasting, but the receiver has to be in the right state to pick it up. And the right state, paradoxically, is a state of partial collapse, a state where the filter has holes in it, a state where you are broken enough to let something new in. This is what the mystics meant when they said you have to die before you die. This is what Rumi meant when he wrote that the wound is the place where the light enters you. This is not poetry in the decorative sense. This is precision. The wound, the crack, the break in your carefully constructed self, that is the aperture through which the teaching passes. Without it, the book is just a book. With it, the book is a doorway. Let me bring in another layer here, because I think it matters. There is a concept in biosemiotics, the study of signs and meaning in living systems, called Umwelt. It was introduced by the biologist Jakob von Uexküll in the early 20th century. The Umwelt is the perceptual world of an organism, the slice of reality that is accessible to it, given its sensory apparatus and cognitive structure. A tick's Umwelt consists of 3 signals: the smell of butyric acid from mammalian skin, the temperature of warm blood, and the tactile sensation of hair. That is the tick's entire reality. Not because the rest of the world does not exist, but because the tick's structure cannot perceive it. You have an Umwelt too, your perceptual world, your cognitive world. The slice of reality you can access is determined by the structure of your consciousness. And that structure is not fixed. It changes. It develops. It breaks down and reforms. When you are operating from a particular level of understanding, certain books are invisible to you. Not literally invisible, you can see them on the shelf, but meaningfully invisible. You cannot extract their significance. You read the words and they slide off you like water off glass. The meaning is there, encoded in the text, but your Umwelt cannot decode it. Your perceptual structure does not have the receptor for that particular signal. Then something shifts, a crisis, a loss, a slow accumulation of dissatisfaction that finally reaches critical mass. Your Umwelt expands. A new receptor comes online. And suddenly the book that was always there, the teaching that was always available, becomes visible, becomes readable, becomes transformative. Not because it changed, because you did. This is what I mean when I say the book chose you. It is not that the physical object exercised agency. It is that the field of your consciousness reached a state of coherence that made the encounter inevitable. In the same way that a radio tuned to a specific frequency will inevitably receive the broadcast on that frequency, your consciousness, tuned by suffering and readiness and the slow collapse of an old way of being, inevitably received the transmission that was always there, waiting. If you are feeling that frequency match right now, there is something deeper I want to offer you. Have you spent years chasing manifestation, visualizing, affirming, raising your vibration, only to watch the same patterns repeat? Every traditional method assumes the same thing, that you are separate from what you want. That separation was never real. You were chasing a signal you were already broadcasting. Beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery walks through all 9 frequencies. From the dense transmissions trapping you through the ascending currents to the master frequencies where consciousness becomes the field. Every method you tried sent a signal outward. This one tunes the signal you already are. Every day you delay, your nervous system broadcasts the same old signal, and breaking free gets harder. So move on it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now let us return to the practice that brings all of this alive. There is a practice I want to offer you here, and it is specific to what we are discussing. I want you to think of a book, a teaching, a piece of wisdom that arrived in your life at exactly the right moment. Maybe it was years ago, maybe it was last week. Do not force it. Let it surface on its own. And when it does, I want you to notice something very particular. I want you to notice what was falling apart in your life when that book appeared. Not what was going well, not what was stable, what was crumbling, what was failing, what was dying. Now hold both of those things in your awareness simultaneously. The collapse and the arrival, the breaking and the book. And notice the relationship between them. Notice that they were not sequential, not really. They were simultaneous. The breaking was the arrival. The falling apart was the door opening. They were one movement, not two. Your consciousness was reorganizing, and the book was part of the reorganization. It was not an external rescue. It was an expression of the same intelligence that was dismantling the old structure. The intelligence that knows how to break you open and what to pour into the opening. This intelligence is not separate from you. This is the part that the spiritual marketplace often gets wrong. It packages this as something you need to access, something outside you that you need to connect to, some higher power you need to petition. But the intelligence I am describing is not outside. It is the deeper layer of what you already are. It is the implicate order expressing itself through the particulars of your life. It is the ocean moving through the wave. You do not need to reach it. You need to stop blocking it. And the blocking, as we have discussed, is done by the very structure that is trying to protect you, the ego, the filter, the constructed self that edits reality to keep you safe, and in doing so, keeps you small. Let me take this somewhere even more specific. There is a phenomenon in neuroscience called the default mode network. This is a set of brain regions that becomes active when you are not focused on the external world. When you are daydreaming, ruminating, thinking about yourself, constructing narratives about your past and future. The default mode network is, in many ways, the neural correlate of the ego. It is the part of the brain that maintains the story of who you are. Research on psychedelics, meditation, and flow states has shown that when the default mode network quiets down, when its activity decreases, people report experiences of ego dissolution, of boundary loss, of feeling connected to something larger than themselves. They describe insights that feel more real than ordinary reality. They encounter truths that they say they always knew but could not access. And critically, the insights that arise during these states are not random. They are specific. They are relevant. They address the exact issues the person is struggling with, as if the deeper intelligence, no longer filtered by the default mode network, can finally deliver its message. This is what happens when the book arrives. Your default mode network, your ego structure, your narrative self, has been weakened by whatever crisis or transition you are going through. The filter has holes, and through those holes, the specific teaching you need can finally reach you. The book is the message that the deeper intelligence has been trying to send for years, decades maybe, and that your well-functioning ego has been successfully blocking because receiving it would require changing in ways the ego cannot predict or control. I am curious about something. As you are listening to this, what old structure do you feel beginning to give way in your life right now? What filter is developing cracks? Share that in the comments below, not because I am asking you to perform vulnerability, but because naming it is part of how the aperture widens. Now here is where this becomes not just interesting, but urgent. Because if this is how it works, if the teaching can only arrive when the old structure is failing, then your relationship to your own suffering changes fundamentally. Your suffering is not punishment. Your confusion is not failure. Your dark night is not a wrong turn. It is the necessary precondition for the next level of understanding. It is the aperture widening. It is the filter developing the holes through which light can finally pass. This does not mean you should seek suffering. That is a misunderstanding that leads to spiritual masochism, and it misses the point entirely. The suffering is not the goal. The suffering is the symptom of a structure that has outlived its usefulness. The goal is the reorganization that happens on the other side. And the book, the teaching, the transmission, is the catalyst that makes the reorganization coherent rather than chaotic. Without it, the breaking can lead to mere destruction. With it, the breaking becomes breakthrough. Think of it in terms of chemistry. When you heat a solid past its melting point, the rigid crystal structure breaks down. The molecules become disordered. They move freely. This is the crisis, the dark night, the moment when everything you knew becomes fluid and uncertain. But if you introduce a seed crystal into this molten state, something remarkable happens. The molecules begin to organize around the new template. They form a new structure, often more complex and more beautiful than the original. The seed crystal does not create the new structure. The potential for that structure was always present in the molecules themselves. The seed crystal simply provides the template around which the reorganization occurs. The book is the seed crystal. Your consciousness, in its molten, broken open state, is the medium. And the new structure that forms, the new understanding, the new way of being, the breakthrough, was always latent in you. It was always possible. It was always waiting. It just needed the old structure to melt and the right template to appear. This is why not just any book will do. This is why the self-help aisle is full of books that millions of people buy and almost no one is transformed by. Transformation is not about information. You can have all the information in the world and remain exactly as you are. Transformation is about the precise meeting of a specific consciousness in a specific state with a specific transmission at a specific moment. It is about resonance. And resonance is not general. Resonance is exquisitely particular. A tuning fork tuned to 440 Hz will not respond to 439. It needs the exact frequency. Your soul, in its moment of readiness, needs the exact teaching. And the teaching needs your exact readiness. They are co-arising. They are entangled. They are one event wearing two faces. I want to go somewhere that might challenge you now, because everything I have said so far might create the impression that this is something that happens to you, that you are the passive recipient of a cosmic delivery service. And while there is truth in the receptive dimension, there is another dimension that is equally important and far less comfortable. You have to participate in your own breaking, not in the sense of deliberately causing yourself pain, in the sense of not running from the breaking when it comes, in the sense of staying present with the dissolution instead of immediately reaching for the next distraction, the next comfort, the next story that will paper over the cracks and let you go back to sleep. The book can appear on your doorstep, but if you refuse to open it because opening it would mean admitting that your current way of seeing is insufficient, it will sit there. It will wait, and eventually it will disappear, not because the universe gave up on you, but because the window of readiness closed. The ego repaired its filter. The default mode network came back online. The holes sealed, and you went back to the smaller Umwelt, the narrower reality, the safer but more suffocating version of yourself. This is what is meant by the phrase, "This book chose you." It is not that you are special in the egoic sense. It is not that you have been selected by some cosmic committee for preferential treatment. It is that your consciousness, right now, in this specific configuration of breaking and readiness, is resonant with a specific transmission. The choosing is mutual. The choosing is structural. The choosing is a function of frequency matching between your state of being and the state of being encoded in the text. And the only question is whether you will honor that resonance or run from it. Because running is always an option. Running is, in fact, the default. The ego is extraordinarily skilled at co-opting even the language of transformation to avoid actual transformation. It will let you read the book and turn it into an intellectual exercise. It will let you discuss the ideas and never embody them. It will let you feel inspired for 48 hours and then return to exactly the same patterns. This is not failure in the moral sense. This is the filter doing its job. The ego's job is to maintain continuity, to keep the story of who you are consistent and predictable. And transformation, by definition, is a discontinuity. It is a break in the story. It is the moment when the character you have been playing realizes they are not the character. They are the author, and the author can write a different story. There is a concept in the study of complex systems called a phase transition. Water turning to ice, iron becoming magnetic, a flock of birds suddenly moving as one. Phase transitions happen when a system reaches a critical threshold and reorganizes into a fundamentally different state. The key feature of a phase transition is that it is non-linear. You cannot get there gradually. You can heat water from 0 to 99 degrees and it remains water. At 100, it becomes something entirely different. The last degree is not just one more degree. It is the degree that changes everything. Your consciousness works the same way. You can accumulate understanding for years, decades, reading and reflecting and practicing, and remain essentially the same person. And then one book, one sentence, one phrase lands in the exact right spot at the exact right moment, and everything reorganizes. Not because that book was more important than all the others, but because it was the 100th degree. It was the one that tipped you past the critical threshold. Every book before it was necessary. Every insight before it was building toward this moment. But this one, this specific one, was the catalyst for the phase transition. And phase transitions cannot be predicted from within the old state. From within the old state, they look like magic. From the new state looking back, they look like inevitability. This is the paradox at the heart of what we are exploring. The book that transforms you could not have transformed you at any other moment. And at this moment, nothing else could have transformed you in the same way. The specificity is total. The timing is absolute. And yet, it does not feel forced. It feels like grace. It feels like something you always knew was coming. It feels like recognition, not discovery. Because in the implicate order, in the deeper reality beneath the surface of appearances, you and the teaching were never separate. The encounter was always already happening. It was just waiting for the surface conditions to align. I want to offer you a second practice now, something you can carry with you beyond this moment. It is a practice of attention, and it is very simple. But do not mistake simplicity for lack of depth. For the next 7 days, I want you to pay attention to what is trying to reach you, not what you are seeking, what is seeking you. There is a difference, and the difference is everything. When you seek, you project your current understanding outward and look for confirmation. You find what you expect to find. When you attend to what is seeking you, you reverse the direction. You become receptive. You soften the filter. You let the ego's agenda quiet down just enough to notice the signals that are always arriving but rarely received. Notice the book title that catches your eye for no logical reason. Notice the conversation that takes an unexpected turn towards something that makes your chest tighten. Notice the phrase that loops in your mind long after you heard it. Notice the dream that lingers into the morning with an emotional residue you cannot explain. These are not random. These are the tendrils of the implicate order reaching into your explicate experience, trying to deliver the next template, the next seed crystal, the next key for the lock that is already turning. Your job is not to figure out what they mean, not yet. Your job is simply to notice them, to honor them with your attention, to resist the ego's impulse to categorize them as coincidence or noise or irrelevance, because the ego will do that. The ego will dismiss every signal that threatens its current narrative. That is its function. Your function, the function of the deeper you, the you that is not the filter, but the awareness behind the filter, is to stay open, to stay soft, to stay in the molten state just long enough for the new crystal to form. There is one more thing I want to address, and it is perhaps the most important thing of all. It is the question of what happens after the book arrives, after the breakthrough, after the phase transition. Because the spiritual marketplace sells the breakthrough as the destination. It sells the moment of awakening as the end of the story. And this is perhaps the most dangerous lie in the entire landscape of transformation. The breakthrough is not the end. The breakthrough is the beginning. It is the moment when the new structure starts to form. But forming a new structure is not instant. It is not painless. It is not a single event. It is a process, and the process requires something that is far less glamorous than the breakthrough itself. It requires integration. Integration is the slow, patient, often tedious work of living from the new understanding. It is waking up the morning after the revelation and discovering that your old habits are still there. Your old reactions are still there. Your old fears are still there. The breakthrough showed you a new possibility, but possibility is not the same as embodiment. Embodiment is what happens when the new understanding moves from your mind into your nervous system, into your body, into the automatic responses that govern 95% of your daily life. And that does not happen in a flash of insight. That happens in the 10,000 moments after the flash, when you choose, again and again, to act from the new understanding instead of the old pattern. This is where most people abandon the book. They had the breakthrough. They felt the resonance. They glimpsed the new possibility. And then the hard work of integration began, and it did not feel transcendent. It felt mundane. It felt frustrating. It felt like failure, because the old patterns kept reasserting themselves. And so they went looking for the next book, the next breakthrough, the next hit of transcendence, without ever completing the integration of the first one. Do not do this. The book that found you, the one that resonated with your exact frequency at your exact moment of readiness, that book is not asking you to feel something. It is asking you to become something. And becoming is slow. Becoming is daily. Becoming is the unglamorous commitment to living from the new truth, even when the old truth feels more comfortable, more familiar, more safe. The quantum eraser experiment I described earlier has one more implication that is relevant here. Remember, erasing the witch path information in the present changed the behavior of particles in the past. The implication is that the present moment has the power to rewrite history. Not the facts of what happened, but the meaning of what happened. The significance, the pattern. When you integrate a breakthrough, when you truly embody the new understanding, you do not just change your future. You change the meaning of your past. The suffering that led to the breaking, the crisis that opened the aperture, the dark night that made you ready, all of it gets rewritten. Not as random misfortune, as preparation, as the necessary conditions for the transformation you are now living. The past does not change. Your relationship to it does. And since your relationship to reality is not separate from reality itself, as the observer effect has shown us, the past, in a very real sense, transforms. This is what it means for the book to choose you. It means that the entire arc of your life, every loss, every failure, every moment of confusion and despair was not leading nowhere. It was leading here, to this moment, to this readiness, to this exact configuration of breaking and openness that allows the next level of your being to emerge. The book is not the cause of the transformation. The book is the evidence that the transformation was already underway. It is the visible sign of an invisible process that has been operating in the depths of your consciousness for longer than you know. And if you are hearing this, if these words are landing in you with a weight that feels disproportionate to their simplicity, then you are in it right now. You are in the molten state. The old structure is giving way. The filter has holes, and something is trying to reach you, something specific, something meant for exactly where you are and exactly who you are becoming. Do not be afraid of this. The breaking feels like dying because the part of you that is breaking is the part that was never really you to begin with. It was a construction, a useful fiction, a temporary shelter that served its purpose and is now too small to contain what you are growing into. The book, the teaching, the transmission, whatever form it takes, is not here to destroy you. It is here to show you what was always underneath the construction, the foundation that does not shake, the awareness that does not break, the you that was here before the story and will be here after it. Consider listening to this again tomorrow morning, before the noise of the day fills in the cracks. Or send it to someone you know who is in their own breaking right now. When you share something like this with someone whose consciousness is ready to receive it, you become part of the implicate orders delivery system. You become the friend who sends the text saying, "I do not know why, but I think you need this." That act of sharing creates a ripple that reinforces your own understanding, while opening a door for someone else. And that kind of resonance between two awakening minds accelerates the transformation for both. Trust the resonance. Trust the timing. Trust the strange, impossible precision of a universe that knows how to deliver exactly what you need at exactly the moment you are ready to receive it. Not because the universe is a vending machine that responds to your wishes, but because you and the universe are not separate things. You are the universe, becoming conscious of itself, one breakthrough at a time. And the book that is calling to you right now, the one whose title keeps surfacing in your mind, the one that a part of you is already reaching for, while another part of you is terrified of what it will reveal. That book is not outside the process. It is the process. It is your own deeper intelligence, speaking to you in the only language the surface mind can receive. Words on a page, ideas in sequence, a story that mirrors your story so precisely that reading it feels less like learning and more like being seen. Let it see you, let it in. The door is already open. It opened the moment the old structure began to crack. All that remains is for you to stop trying to close it. If what you heard today resonated with something you cannot quite name, if it landed in that space between what you know and what you are becoming, then stay with it. Do not rush to the next thing. Let this settle. Let it work on you the way the book works on you, not through force, but through frequency. Subscribe if you want to continue walking this path together. Leave a thought below, not a reaction, but a real reflection, something from the place in you that recognized what was being said here. This space is built for that kind of honesty. And come back when you are ready. The next transmission will be here, waiting, the way it always has been.